everyone, it is Sam from the Avalon Center bringing you the lesson of the day today. So, I am doing the domestic violence video today, and one thing that I wanted to kind of dive a little bit deeper on the subject of is boundaries. So, we have kind of talked about boundaries. I know I've brushed over boundaries talking about just general power and control domestic violence. I know Lachelle did an excellent video on red flags and kind of what to look for going into a relationship, and that's kind of where we wanted boundaries to come in again as well and kind of talk about those. So boundaries are something that you have to have in every single relationship, whether it is intimate partner relationship, with your children, with your coworkers, with your friends. You have to have boundaries. And there sometimes, if you don't know how to set good boundaries, if you don't know how to communicate those boundaries, or really know in your mind what your boundaries are, what you're comfortable with or what you're not comfortable with, then it leads the other person to be able to kind of decide your boundaries for you. And that's where you end up losing your power and your control in your relationship, to where you no longer have power and control over yourself. Not that we want you to have it over the other person, but you should always feel like you're in control of your decisions and what you want to do and what you are deciding to do. So with boundaries, you kind of have to take a minute for yourself and really decide what your boundaries are, because everyone's boundaries are different, what you're comfortable with, what you're not, whether that is how quickly you spend time with someone, how often you see someone, if you are comfortable with sex and when that happens, if you're comfortable with money or still going out with your friends and seeing them on a regular basis, and all of these different things. So the biggest thing about knowing if someone is going to be abusive, and there's no way to know that is where a lot of fear of someone that has been in a relationship like that, where the other person was so controlling or abusive in those ways, that you didn't see it at the beginning, because they're very, very good at covering that up and manipulating and using all those tactics to make sure that you don't see that that's where you're headed, kind of in that situation. So by setting those boundaries, whether they're big or small, you are kind of seeing how someone reacts to those boundaries. So whether it is something really simple, such as I am not going to spend the night at your house for this amount of time, until this amount of time has passed, or we've seen each other this many times, whatever it might be. If the other person respects that boundary and doesn't try to push you or sway you or sweet talk you or guilt you into changing that boundary, then it is a really good indicator of, are they respectful of boundaries? Are they going to be respectful of boundaries going forward? Because it doesn't always have to be aggressive or violent. They don't have to threaten you. You have to stay here. It is just going to be not respecting what you're asking, what boundary you're setting, and pushing on that. So those boundaries right at the beginning are going to be really important indicators of how someone's going to respect and respond to your boundaries going forward. So maybe it is something as simple as, like, you have to work late, or you're wanting to pick up an extra shift because you need the money, you want to work this extra time, but maybe they guilt you into not doing that because they want to spend time with you or whatever that is. But your boundary is that you need to make this money, or you always pick up the shifts, but now you're not, because they're swaying you on something that you normally have a boundary set in place, and you know what decision you would make without them kind of affecting what you decide. So all sorts of ways to kind of set those boundaries in the beginning, to kind of see and gauge how someone's going to react at the end. Because the bottom line is, with power and control, they don't want you to have any boundaries. They don't, or any boundaries that you do have, they want to work toward kind of tearing those down little by little to where you no longer make decisions. You don't say, no, I don't want to do that, or no, I'm not going to do this. And then, we do support groups in the jails and even in a prison and things like that. And I had a support group in a jail, and it is one of the best experiences ever to be able to go in and do a support group with them. But one thing that I've said in a support group, and they're talking about boundaries, is that how many people say, if my significant other ever cheats on me, I'm done. That day, I'm done. That's my boundary. I'm done. And that is so much easier said than to live in that, because especially whenever you're in power-based domestic violence, then you absolutely, backtrack on a lot of those things. And it's not because you don't want to set that boundary, it's because you no longer have the power in the relationship to even enforce those boundaries. And it becomes from things like that, from something as simple as, I don't want to see you more than 3 times a week for the first month we're together, whatever your boundary might be. But something simple in the beginning leads to, okay, I'm not going to leave you if you cheat on me, or I am not going to leave you if you hit me. And even though those boundaries seem so strict and so firm at the beginning, with power-based domestic violence, you lose power over your decisions over time, to the point that you no longer have the control over your power and your decisions and your boundaries anymore, to where the abuser knows that they've put in the work to basically where they can get away with things like hitting you at a certain point. So that's what we really talk about, boundaries and red flags and things like that in the beginning, because even though they can spin it and it can seem so positive of, well, I don't want you to hang out with your friends because I need you. Like, I just want to spend all the time that I can with you. They can make it seem so sweet and so endearing and so good at the beginning, that you absolutely start turning over those boundaries and, kind of doing what they're asking you to do in a non-formal way, to where moving forward, you no longer have power and control over your decisions and over the boundaries that you choose to set. And, the biggest thing that I know I've talked about a lot is it's not always aggressive. They have, many ways to go about it. But the biggest thing that you want to look for is, are they respectful of the boundaries that you set? Because that is kind of the key thing going forward. Are they respecting what you're asking of them? Are they saying that you're unreasonable? Are they talking you out of it? Are they being aggressive by talking you out of it? How do they react when you set a boundary that's healthy for you? And that can be financial boundaries of, them asking you to pay for a lot, or vice versa, whatever that looks like. There's a million things. You have to set boundaries with everything, basically, everything in your life. And the way that I like to kind of paint the picture for that is, humankind basically naturally wants to push boundaries. Think about a 5-year-old wanting candy. They're going to keep asking, they're going to keep pushing, they want more candy. They kind of are repeatedly asking for that. And you have to set boundaries with them. Bedtimes, just every little thing, you have to set boundaries. And that's with any relationship, like I talked about at the beginning. But where you really can lose your power and control and it become dangerous is in domestic violence. So that's where we really want to talk about boundaries and how important those are. And you can reach out to us to where maybe you don't really know what your boundaries are. And, maybe there's things where you have soft boundaries and you're okay with, giving and, kind of bending on certain things. And then there's some that you're very firm on, like, you're not going to hit me. That hopefully can be a very, very firm boundary, but it's so easy for little boundaries to be pushed and broken to where you no longer have those, to over time getting to where someone can hit you and that's no longer a firm boundary. And we understand that, we get that, and that's something that we want to talk to you about. We want to work through. We want to help you really think. We have worksheets and tools and can talk to you about, what are your boundaries, and really sitting down, looking at those and establishing what you're comfortable with, what you're not, how to communicate those, and how to recognize when someone is pushing those, because if it's not an aggressive push, then it's harder to recognize. So all of those things are things that we can help with and we can talk to you about. So we want you to reach out. We appreciate you reaching out. And also, if there's any topics that that any of you guys are really wanting us to cover, or something you want us to dig a little deeper on, or just a specific thing that you're wanting to hear from us, please reach out and let us know. You can comment. If you don't want to comment or don't feel safe or don't feel comfortable commenting, send us a Facebook message. It is just as confidential as if you were calling or walking in. You're welcome to call also, but absolutely send us a Facebook message. Just reach out to us in some way, and if all you want to say is, hey, I wish someone would do a video on this topic or that topic, or I would really like to know more about this or that, or whatever that looks like, we'll do that. We'll do that for you. We are just trying to cover like a wide array of things right now, but absolutely, if there's something specific that you would like to hear from us, then let us know, and we will absolutely cover that. But we appreciate you guys listening and watching. We have an auction that's going to go up today, so everyone watch for that. And we appreciate you. Thank you.